Right now, at this very moment, 70 million Americans are in the direct path of what could become the most catastrophic winter storm system we have seen in over a decade. Not a typical snowstorm, not just another cold snap. We are talking about a weather event that meteorologists are comparing to the crippling Texas freeze of 2021, the kind of storm that brings entire regions to a complete standstill. Here is what makes this different. 3 separate weather systems are about to collide over the heartland of America this weekend, creating a perfect storm scenario that has forecasters using words like unprecedented and historic. The computers are showing ice accumulations that would snap power lines like toothpicks. We are looking at potential snowfall totals that could bury entire neighborhoods. And behind all of this, Arctic air so cold it is currently sitting over the North Pole, about to plunge straight down into the lower 48 states. But here is the question that should be keeping you awake tonight. Are you prepared for what happens when the power goes out for not just hours but potentially days or even weeks, while temperatures outside drop to levels we have not seen in a generation? Because that is the reality millions of Americans could be facing in less than 72 hours, and I promise you this. By minute 5 of this report, I will tell you exactly which states are in the highest danger zone, the specific timeline of when this storm will hit your area, and most importantly, the critical steps you need to take right now, today, before the grocery store shelves are empty and the hardware stores run out of generators. Let me show you something that will make this real. The European weather model, which has been remarkably accurate this season, is showing a storm system that stretches from New Mexico all the way to the tip of New Jersey. That is over 2,000 miles of active winter weather, all happening at the same time. The National Weather Prediction Center, the experts who only issue alerts when they are absolutely certain, have just upgraded their confidence levels. They are now showing a 70 to 90% chance of major winter storm impacts across a zone that includes over 40 million people. Think about that number for a second. 40 million people. That is more than the entire population of Canada, all facing the same weather emergency simultaneously. The storm is being fueled by what meteorologists call a classic phase event. Here's what that means in plain English. You have got one jet stream coming down from Canada carrying some of the coldest air currently on planet Earth. Not just cold for January, cold compared to anywhere on the globe right now. At the exact same time, you have got another weather system moving in from the Pacific, loaded with moisture. When cold air and moisture collide with this much energy, you get the recipe for a disaster. But wait, there is more you need to know, and this is where it gets concerning. Right now, parts of this storm system are still over the Pacific Ocean. Why does that matter? Because it means we still have time. Time to prepare, time to stock up, time to make sure your family is ready. But that window is closing fast. By Thursday, the energy from this system will be over land, and by Friday afternoon, all hell breaks loose. Let me paint you the picture of what Friday looks like according to the latest data. A high-pressure system, potentially record-breaking in strength, will be sitting over the northern United States, acting like a giant fan, pushing Arctic air south. At the same time, moisture will be streaming in from the Gulf of Mexico. Where these two systems meet, that is where the magic happens. Except this is not the good kind of magic. This is the kind that shuts down interstates, grounds flights, and leaves communities isolated. Now, I am about to share something with you that most weather reports will not tell you until it is too late, and this is your reward for sticking with me through the first 30 seconds. The ice. Everyone is talking about the snow totals, but the real danger, the thing that is going to cause the most damage and the longest-lasting problems, is the ice. Current models are showing ice accumulations of half an inch to over 1 full inch across a swath of the South. Let me put that in perspective for you. A quarter inch of ice is enough to start breaking tree branches. Half an inch will bring down power lines. 1 inch of ice, that is catastrophic. That is the kind of ice that collapses entire sections of the power grid. We are talking about potential ice totals that exceed anything we saw during the infamous ice storms that crippled the Carolinas back in 2002. The cities in the highest danger zone for catastrophic ice right now, Dallas-Fort Worth. We are talking about the 4th largest metropolitan area in the United States, home to over 7 million people potentially facing an ice storm that could shut down the city for days. Little Rock, Arkansas, Shreveport, Louisiana, Jackson, Mississippi. And here is the one that has me most concerned: Columbia, South Carolina, extending out towards Atlanta, Georgia. These are major population centers, folks. Millions of people who do not regularly deal with winter weather about to get hit with ice totals that would be extreme even for cities used to winter storms. But the snow, the snow totals are equally impressive. Oklahoma City is showing an 80% probability of at least 4 inches of snow. But that is just the starting point. Some models are painting a bullseye over Virginia, suggesting that portions of the state could see 12 inches of snow or more. When was the last time Richmond, Virginia saw a foot of snow? Charlottesville? These are not areas where a foot of snow is a normal winter occurrence. And the computers keep insisting this is going to happen. The GFS model shows it, the European model shows it, even the newer artificial intelligence weather models are locked in on this solution. When multiple independent forecast systems all agree, you pay attention. This is not one rogue model going crazy. This is consensus among the most sophisticated weather prediction tools we have ever created. Here is what the timeline looks like, and pay close attention because this is when you need to have everything ready. Wednesday, you will start seeing some advanced snow showers moving through parts of the Midwest. This is just the appetizer. Thursday, things start to get serious. The southern branch of the jet stream begins pumping moisture into Texas and the southern states. Friday afternoon, this is when the storm really begins to intensify. By Friday evening, we are looking at heavy snow developing across Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri. Freezing rain will be overtaking northern Texas, southern Arkansas, northern Louisiana. Saturday morning, the storm is in full force. The snow and ice zone expands dramatically. Nashville, Tennessee, Memphis, Louisville, Kentucky, portions of southern Indiana and southern Illinois, all getting hammered. But Saturday afternoon and evening, this is when the storm shifts east and begins impacting the mid-Atlantic. Richmond, Virginia, Raleigh, North Carolina, Greensboro. This is when your snow begins, and it is going to come down hard and fast. Sunday, the storm continues its march eastward. The Chesapeake Bay region gets hit. Washington, D.C. could see significant snow. Baltimore, Philadelphia, southern New Jersey, even portions of Long Island are in play for measurable snow. And here is the kicker. The storm might not be done even by Monday. Some models suggest this thing could linger into Tuesday of next week, continuing to pump snow across portions of the Northeast. Now, I promised you I would tell you at the 5-minute mark exactly what you need to do to prepare. So here we are, and I am going to give you the most important information you will hear all week. First, medications. If you or anyone in your household takes prescription medications, get them refilled right now. Do not wait. Do not assume the pharmacy will be open or that you will be able to get there. Get at least a 2-week supply if possible. This is not being dramatic. This is being prepared. Second, food and water. You need at least 1 week, preferably 2 weeks, of non-perishable food. And when I say non-perishable, I mean food you can eat without cooking, because there is a real possibility you will be without power. Peanut butter, crackers, canned goods, protein bars, dried fruit. Stock up now while the stores still have inventory. As for water, you need 1 gallon per person per day, minimum. A family of 4 needs 28 gallons for a week. That is 7 of those big water jugs you see at the grocery store. Third, heat. This is critical. If you lose power during this storm, how will you stay warm? And I am not talking about being a little chilly. I am talking about temperatures that could drop to 10 or 20 degrees below zero in some areas with the wind chill. If you have a fireplace, stock up on wood now. If you have a generator, make sure it is working and you have fuel. If you do not have either, you need to think about this seriously. Can you stay with family or friends who have a backup heat source? Do you have enough blankets and warm clothing to survive multiple days without heat? Fourth, your vehicle. Fill up your gas tank. Not halfway, not 3/4, completely full. If you need to evacuate or if you need to run your car for heat, you will need that fuel. Also, check your emergency kit in your car. Blankets, flashlight, batteries, first aid kit, some food and water. If you get stranded on a highway because of this storm, that kit could save your life. Fifth, cash. ATMs require electricity. If the power is out for an extended period, those machines will not work. Have at least $200 to $300 in cash on hand. Small bills are better. 20s, 10s, 5s. Sixth, and this is one people forget, Charge everything. Your phone, your tablets, your laptop, your portable battery packs. Charge them all fully before the storm hits. Communication could be critical, and you want to make sure you can call for help if needed. Now, let me tell you about the Arctic blast that is coming behind this storm, because this is what takes this from a major winter storm to a potentially historic event. The temperatures that are forecast to follow this system are staggering. We are looking at temperature anomalies of 30 to 40 degrees below average across much of the central and eastern United States. What does that actually mean? Let me give you some examples. Chicago could see wind chills of 30 below zero. Louisville, Kentucky might not get above 10 degrees for several days straight. Even cities as far south as Atlanta could spend multiple days below freezing, with nighttime lows in the teens. This is not normal January cold for these areas. This is once in a decade, maybe once in a generation cold, and this cold air is not just passing through. The latest ensemble models, which run the forecast hundreds of times to see different possible outcomes, are showing this Arctic air mass locked in place for 10 to 15 days. That means even after the snow and ice stop, even after the storm moves out, you are still dealing with brutal, dangerous cold for an extended period. Why does this matter so much? Because of the power outages. Ice storms snap power lines and bring down trees onto electrical infrastructure. Utility crews work around the clock to restore power, but they can only work safely when temperatures are not life-threatening. If it is 20 below zero, those crews cannot work as long or as effectively. That means power restoration could take significantly longer than normal. And if you are without power and it is 20 below zero outside, that is when this becomes a life safety issue. Houses lose heat quickly in extreme cold. Pipes freeze and burst, causing water damage. Carbon monoxide poisoning increases because people use unsafe heating methods out of desperation. This is when we start seeing the tragic stories on the news. But here is what you might not know. This Arctic air mass is coming from the polar vortex. You have probably heard that term before, but let me explain what it actually means. The polar vortex is a large area of low pressure and extremely cold air that normally sits over the Arctic. It is always there, spinning around the North Pole. But sometimes, the jet stream that usually contains it weakens or gets disrupted, and when that happens, chunks of the polar vortex can break off and plunge south. That is what is happening right now. A lobe of the polar vortex, containing some of the coldest air currently on the entire planet, is breaking off and diving straight down into North America. This is not just cold air from Canada. This is air that was sitting over the Arctic Circle 48 hours ago. The Weather Prediction Center has been very clear in their messaging. They do not issue these kinds of alerts lightly. When they put out a 70 to 90% probability for major winter storm impacts, they are essentially saying we are as certain as we can possibly be that this is going to happen. They have factored in all the variables, run all the models, and their confidence is extremely high. Let me show you some specific probability numbers because this is important. Oklahoma City, 80% chance of at least 4 inches of snow. But here is what is really eye-opening. Parts of Virginia are showing an 80% chance of at least 4 inches, with some areas having better than 50-50 odds of seeing 8 inches or more. Those are remarkably high probabilities this far out from the event. For ice, the probabilities are even more concerning. Dallas-Fort Worth area, better than 70% chance of seeing at least 1/10 of an inch of ice. Columbia, South Carolina, similar numbers. 1/10 of an inch might not sound like much, but that is enough to make roads completely impassable and to start bringing down tree branches onto power lines. Some of the higher-end model solutions are showing ice totals that are frankly terrifying. One credible model is showing nearly 2 inches of ice in parts of South Carolina. 2 inches. To give you context, the catastrophic ice storm that hit the Carolinas in 2002, which left 1.2 million people without power, produced ice totals around 3/4 of an inch in the hardest hit areas. We are looking at potential totals that could exceed that. Now, I want to talk about something that is going to affect millions of people, but does not get discussed enough in these situations. The economic impact of a storm like this. When entire regions shut down for days or potentially weeks, the economic damage is staggering. We are talking billions of dollars in lost productivity, damaged infrastructure, emergency response costs, and insurance claims. The Texas freeze of 2021 caused an estimated $195 billion in damage. That is billion with a B. It was the costliest winter storm in United States history. Now, I am not saying this storm will reach those levels, but the potential is there. The geographic scope is actually larger than the Texas event. The duration could be similar or longer when you factor in the extended Arctic outbreak. And we are dealing with ice, which is even more destructive to infrastructure than snow. Think about the supply chain implications. If major interstates across the South and Midwest are shut down for several days, what happens to the trucks that supply grocery stores, hospitals, and pharmacies? What happens to the just-in-time delivery systems that keep our modern economy running? This is why preparing now is so critical. Once the storm hits, once the trucks stop running, the store shelves will be empty, and they will stay empty until the roads clear and the deliveries can resume. Airlines are already starting to issue travel waivers for affected cities. That is usually one of the first signs that they are taking the forecast seriously. When airlines start canceling flights 2 or 3 days in advance, they are seeing the same data the meteorologists are seeing, and they are making business decisions based on that data. Here is another thing to consider. Schools are going to be closed, probably for multiple days, possibly for a week or more in the hardest hit areas. If you have children, you need to plan for that. You need to have activities, entertainment, ways to keep them occupied when they cannot go outside and you might not have power for television or internet. I want to address something that I know some of you are thinking. Could this forecast be wrong? Could the models be overplaying this? It is a fair question. Weather forecasting is not an exact science, especially this far out. But here is what I will tell you. The model agreement on this storm is unusually high. When you see the American models, the European models, and the AI models all showing similar solutions, that is significant. It means the atmosphere is in a pattern that is fairly predictable. Could the exact track shift? Absolutely. A shift of 50 miles could mean the difference between 8 inches of snow and 1 inch of rain for some cities. Could the timing change? Yes. The storm could speed up or slow down by several hours. Could the intensity be different? Possibly. But the broad strokes, the overall pattern, the fact that a major winter storm is coming and bringing dangerous cold behind it, that is essentially locked in at this point. The other thing I will tell you is this. It is better to over-prepare and be wrong than to under-prepare and suffer the consequences. If you stock up on food and water and nothing happens, you will still eat that food eventually. If you fill up your gas tank and the storm fizzles, you still needed gas anyway. But if you do not prepare and the worst case scenario happens, you could find yourself in a genuinely dangerous situation. Let me give you some specific city-by-city guidance based on what the models are currently showing. Dallas or Fort Worth, your biggest threat is ice, potentially crippling ice. Prepare for extended power outages. Oklahoma City, heavy snow, 6 to 10 inches with strong winds creating blizzard conditions. Travel will be extremely dangerous. Little Rock, Arkansas, dangerous mix. Snow, sleet, freezing rain at different times. This maximizes damage to trees and power lines. Nashville, Memphis, Louisville, significant snow and ice. All 3 cities could see 6+ inches with ice mixed in. Power outages, very likely. Atlanta, Columbia, Charlotte, Raleigh. This is where the ice forecast gets truly scary. Significant ice accumulations, possibly over ½ an inch. Catastrophic ice storm for your region. Richmond, Virginia Beach, Tidewater, and Shenandoah Valley. Potential for significant snow. 8 to 12 inches possible. One of the bigger snow events your region has seen in recent years. Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, northern edge of highest impact zone. Definitely getting snow, probably 4 to 8 inches. Delmarva Peninsula could see higher totals. Now let me talk about the human element. Elderly neighbors who might not be able to stock up. People with medical conditions, especially vulnerable to cold. The homeless who have nowhere to go when temperatures drop below zero. Check on your neighbors, especially elderly and those living alone. Make sure they have what they need. Offer to pick up supplies for people who cannot get out. Animal welfare matters. Pets need to be inside. Livestock owners need to plan for providing water when temperatures stay below freezing for days. Being trapped inside during prolonged winter storms affects mental health. Plan ahead with board games, books, cards, puzzles to keep your family entertained. New weather balloon data comes in every 12 hours. The models will refine forecasts. By Thursday, we should have a clearer picture of exact totals and timing. By Friday, the forecast should be locked in, but by then it is too late to prepare. The National Weather Service will start issuing winter storm watches by Wednesday or Thursday. These will be upgraded to warnings as we get closer. When you see a warning for your area, the storm is imminent within 12 to 24 hours. The Arctic air mass settling in behind this storm is not just passing through. Ensemble forecasts show it locked in place for 10 to 15 days. Even after snow and ice stop, you are dealing with brutal, dangerous cold for an extended period. This matters because of power outages. Ice storms snap power lines. Utility crews work around the clock but cannot work effectively when it is 20 below zero. Power restoration takes significantly longer. Without power at 20 below zero, this becomes life-threatening. Houses lose heat quickly, pipes freeze and burst. Carbon monoxide poisoning increases when people use unsafe heating methods. The combination of factors here is particularly concerning. Widespread ice, heavy snow in areas not used to it, extreme cold following immediately, long duration. Extended power outages during life-threatening cold. People in Texas still talk about the freeze of 2021. People in the Carolinas still talk about the ice storm of 2002. This has potential to be one of those events people remember for decades. But here is the good news. You have time. You have this information now. While there is still time to act, the stores are still open, the roads are still clear, you can still prepare. And if you take this seriously and prepare properly, you and your family will get through this safely. So what do you do now? Make a list. Go to the store today, not tomorrow. Fill your gas tank. Charge your devices. Talk to your family about the plan. Where will you shelter without power? How will you stay warm? How will you communicate? Stay informed. Keep watching forecasts. Check multiple sources, local news, National Weather Service, weather apps. As we get closer, the forecast becomes more specific for your location. Review your insurance policy. Know what is covered. Know how to file a claim. Having this information now could save headaches later. Battery-powered radios and flashlights with extra batteries are essential. Carbon monoxide detectors need fresh batteries. If you use a generator, never run it indoors. The carbon monoxide can kill in minutes. No hypothermia signs. Shivering, confusion, slurred speech, drowsiness. Warm victims gradually with blankets and warm drinks. Frostbite happens when exposed skin freezes in minutes at these temperatures. If you must travel, tell someone where you are going and when you expect to arrive. Stay with your vehicle if stranded. Run the engine for heat in 10-minute intervals every hour. After the storm, downed power lines can hide under snow. They might not spark, but are still deadly. Stay away and call the utility company. The key message is simple. Prepare now. Do not wait. Do not assume it will not be as bad as forecast. Hope for the best. Prepare for the worst. When this storm clears, remember the utility workers who restored power in brutal conditions, the plow drivers, the emergency responders, the neighbors who checked on each other. That is when we see the best in people. Stay safe. Take this seriously. Prepare like your life depends on it. This is a major winter storm with potential for significant, long-lasting impacts. But if we prepare, if we work together, if we look out for each other, we will get through this. The